Wasted time is a really interesting concept that I think in the last 2 weeks of doing this podcast, I've started to think a lot about. It was actually last night, someone said to me, oh, we should watch, what did they say? Prison Break. And I remember like my brain went, that's a waste of time. And then I corrected myself to them, and I didn't say it to them, but I remember going, do you know what? Nothing is really a waste of time. Because if you think about the way creativity works and how we source inspiration from so many random things, nothing is, and it also, if it relaxing is not a waste of time.
No.
But I think we've been quite conditioned to see if it's not productive and resulting in some kind of, quantitative ROI, it's a waste of time.
Yeah.
What's your relationship with time and empty time and space?
Well, I mean, it's changed a lot, but I think like currently, I don't try and like control like time. This is taking too long. This isn't like, this needs to happen now, or like, oh, I should be doing this, but I haven't. I've spent like a lot of my time, torturing myself over like whether I spent time in like the most useful way or whatever. But now I feel like we even said something recently, because like we've been talking about time a lot, and like sort of this discussion of like, is it linear? Like, and this is kind of like, quite, like can be quite sort of hypothetical or whatever, dense things about like the history of the universe and like what we all are and what it all means. But he said something very interesting recently where he was like, I feel like what time can do is like arrange itself before you. And like he sort of talks about like his schedule, like sometimes in a week, like there's a million meetings and they're all happening at the same time, and it's like are you gonna go like I need to change everything, da, da, da. He was like, or do you just like let it be, and then it magically kind of like this person needs to do something earlier and this person needs to do something like later, so like these calls all move and then we need to cancel because so got COVID. Like he was like it like if I stress and try and manipulate my calendar to be like perfect, one, that's really, really stressful, and two, I don't do that, and it sometimes just it most of the time just sort of falls into place. And so I've always thought that was really interesting. So in those times where I was like I need to be doing this right now, but like I can't do it, I can't focus, I can't whatever, I'm like the space, the block of time where I'm supposed to do this is going to find me. That sounds like I'm like avoiding all responsibilities.
No, it makes perfect sense to me. Because there's many ways I received that. The first one was just like, okay, I can't control the future anyway, so there's so much anxiety surrounding trying to. The second thing is that like my priorities and what I care about will end up shaping this all anyway. So like if this ran over by a couple of minutes and I wanted it to run over, that's fine, because I made the conscious decision that this was my priority versus, I don't know, walking my dog or something. And so my priorities, my values will hopefully lead me. And then there's loads of things out of my control, which is not for me to worry about anyway. So the future should be somewhat fluid, and accepting that's not always an easy thing, but it's probably a better way to look at our time.
I want to enjoy the journey. So
you're enjoying the journey, right?
Yeah.
More so now than ever?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Are you?
Yeah, I'm enjoying the journey. Yeah. Yeah, I am. I just take every day. I think I've just always just taken every day as it comes. And like some days I do really shit, and that's okay. But I can't do anything about it now. So I just try my best to just, as I said earlier, like channel that into like learnings, feedback, and being better. We have a closing tradition on this podcast, which you might be aware of. It's where the last guest writes a question for the next guest.
Oh, cool. No, I haven't seen this.
So they don't know who they're writing it for, and you will never know who asked it.
Okay.
And I don't get to read it until now.
Okay.
This person has a bit of a interesting handwriting.
Okay.
Mine is worse, I'll say, but here we go. What's the last decision you made that went completely sideways, plus what did you do to correct it? Brackets, if you could correct it.
There's like a lot of different things that I'm thinking of, and I don't know, like. Okay, so I have been working in Paris recently, as you know, and I was diagnosed like a year and a half ago with ADHD, and I take medication every day, and I like prescribed that in the UK, and I'm like working in France, so I ran out and like couldn't get any more in time to like go away. I don't know if this is going to be like insightful.
No, it doesn't need to be insightful at all.
To correct it, I tried to get some sent over, but that like wasn't working for lots of different reasons. But I guess like the main thing that I did was like stop beating myself up about like not like organizing it better so as I had it, because I was already feeling like terrible. But you know, torturing yourself over this and telling yourself, oh, you could have your medication right now if you'd have just done this, then you'd be fine right now. But instead you're gonna struggle. Like, instead of sort of going down that path, I just was like, it's done. I can't change it. Like I can't do this. Like my brain is like hitting a wall with like, you know, I don't know, to-do list or like whatever. And I just have to ride it out.
What made you want to go and get checked for ADHD? But then even that assumes you wanted to go get checked.
I've been speaking to a psychiatrist for like a long time. So he's known me for quite a while. And we've sort of like, yeah, between him and like therapy that I do sort of more actively, but like more regularly. Yeah.
And he suggested it?
Yeah.
And it made sense to you?
It did. Like, a lot of the things that I like had noticed about myself, like I always remember my mum being like, yeah, but you know, I struggle with this and I struggle with that too. Like, you know, and I think she raised me knowing all the things that she knew about herself, like in a very particular way. And I got to do a lot of things that came very naturally to me. And she was sort of forced to do things that like she just, you know. And so, but it was like funny because he was sort of telling me all these things. And I'm like, yeah, but my mum does that. And he's going, yeah, it runs in the family. I'm like, oh, interesting. So yeah, it was quite a interesting thing just for me and my mum to go through, actually. Yeah, I like had more perspective on myself, but also like more perspective on her too, which was kind of cool.
What is your relationship with her mum? I realise I've not mentioned her.
Yeah, we haven't. My relationship with my mum is in a really, really good place now.
Now? I
mean, it's like, it has been my whole life. She like kind of gave me the greatest gift of all and just like supported whatever it is that I wanted to do. And it kind of led me to like the most extraordinary places, and we did a lot like together. And in more recent years, I think I've well, you know, grown up, but also sort of like, you know, been more independent. And like that is like adjusted our relationship, as it does, like, you know, very naturally. But it's just been like interesting for the two of us to navigate that from being like quite in ways codependent, you know, like she traveled with me while I was like between the age of like 12 to 16, 17. And like those are usually the years when everyone's like, Mom, like you're not cool, I don't like you. And like me and my mom were like thick as thieves, and we just like traveled the world together, like me and her. So we were like very, very close, and like very like had a, you know, and we still are. We still have all those things. But it's just been very interesting, like, you know, growing up and having like having parts of my life that are like just simply my own, and like parts of my career and struggles with my career that I get through on my own because, like, you know, I that's okay. I can do that now. And just like the way that's been like strange for us both, I think.
Was there a point with your relationship with your mother where you started having those difficult conversations? about the things you were realizing about yourself and your past? And is there, because I'm not that close to my parents, so I've just never had those conversations.
Yeah, like we've definitely had like those conversations. Yeah, it's like incredibly painful. Like I think there's like so much pain, you know, that you have like in your own experience, but like, you know, it's like very painful to think about like the people that you love like being in pain as well, or like whatever. So yeah.
Well, Maisie, thank you for coming here today, and thank you for having this conversation with me. I learn so much from everyone I speak to, but it's interesting. I feel that you're such a good human being at your core, and it almost it's difficult for me. I feel like you're such a pure good human being, you know, and so I really I feel like every tear you've cried, and I feel all of your pain as well. I've never actually got up and hugged someone during the conversation. But no, you're such a beautiful, pure human being. And I'm so deeply hoping that you get comfortable with that truth too, however long that takes for you, because it is the truth. And because that is the truth, it means that you're so deserving of so much. More so than I am. You're definitely, no, you are, because you are literally like within there, you are a complete ray of joy and sunshine and love and kindness and all those things that I'm striving to be even better at. So thank you. And, you know, thank you for your honesty, because it's unbelievably difficult and it's easier not to be. But you won't even get to see all of the people that it serves and helps in so many profound ways. So that's what I want to thank you for, and your suit. And it's just tremendously inspiring. We didn't even get to talk about how hard you've worked professionally. We did a little bit off air, but to achieve all the things you've achieved at such an unbelievably young age. But that inspires me. Your openness and honesty inspires me. Your wisdom inspires me. And, you know, I'm so excited. You're 25, which is unfair. It's like crazy. It's crazy. Crazy that you've done so much, and you're such a beautiful person at such a young age. So thank you, Maisie.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for this incredible podcast. I think you, as you have spoken about, have a real range of guests, but I think that you approach everyone on like a very sincere and like consistent level. And I think that like you as a person are like very real, and that sort of brings out like a real openness in the people that you talk with. But you also like clarify at every sort of point any part that you don't understand, which not only helps you understand, but it brings like the audience in a way that like a lot of other people don't, whether because like they don't want to ask questions because they don't want to look like they don't know or whatever. Like you are like very authentic, and like it's incredibly calming to be around. So thank you.
Huge compliment.